Rebecca has never succeeded at anything. My father's voice boomed across the banquet hall, his champagne glass raised high. She'll receive nothing from this company. Everything goes to Derek, who actually earned it. I sat frozen at table 12, watching 200 faces turn toward me. My brother smirked from the head table, adjusting his new Rolex. My mother stared at her plate, silent as always. The room buzzed with whispers. My father continued his retirement speech, listing Derek's accomplishments while erasing my 15 years of unpaid work. Every late night I'd handled his accounting. Every crisis I'd quietly solved. Every sacrifice I'd made while raising 2 kids alone. Gone. Dismissed. Erased. My hands trembled as I set down my fork. This wasn't anger. This was something colder. I realized the microphone placement was too perfect, the timing too calculated. Derek had known exactly what was coming. This wasn't spontaneous cruelty. This was planned humiliation. My name is Rebecca Torres. I'm 42 years old from Phoenix, Arizona. If you want to hear how this story ends, please subscribe to this channel for more fascinating stories like this. I stood up slowly, smoothing my dress. No tears. No shouting. No dramatic scene that would give them satisfaction. I picked up my purse and walked toward the exit. Every eye followed me. I heard my father falter mid-sentence. Someone gasped. My mother half rose from her chair, then sat back down. The walk to my car felt endless. My heels clicked against marble floors, echoing in the terrible silence I'd left behind. I could feel their confusion. Rebecca always apologized. Rebecca always made peace. Rebecca never fought back. Inside my sedan, I gripped the steering wheel and finally let myself breathe. 30 years of being second choice crashed over me. Every birthday overshadowed by Derek's achievements. Every promotion I'd earned in my 20s that my parents called cute. Every time I'd begged for recognition and received lectures about family loyalty instead. But this was different. This was the final betrayal. And something inside me had quietly snapped. I drove home, remembering how it started. I was 7 when Derek was born. Suddenly, every family photo centered him. Every dinner conversation revolved around his potential. I graduated top of my class. They bought Derek a puppy. I earned a scholarship. They threw Derek a birthday party. I started my career in finance. They asked me to help with Derek's homework. When Dad's import business struggled, I was 25 and working at a corporate firm. I came home every weekend, learning his systems, fixing his books, negotiating with suppliers. No title. No salary. Just family helps family. Derek partied through college on Dad's money. I raised 2 daughters while balancing spreadsheets at midnight. When Derek finally joined the company at 28, Dad gave him vice president. I was still the daughter who helps out sometimes. But during those years, I'd learned something nobody noticed. I'd mastered every supplier relationship, every contract loophole, every financial pressure point. I knew that business better than anyone. I just never had permission to say it out loud. My sister called the next morning. Everyone's talking about last night. Dad says he was just being honest about the business going to Derek. Mom thinks you overreacted by leaving. I didn't overreact. I left. Derek says you embarrassed the family. I almost laughed. Tell Derek congratulations on his promotion. After hanging up, I heard through mutual friends how they'd spun the evening. Rebecca always wanted something she didn't earn. She never understood business. It's better this way. Derek posted on social media, excited to lead Torres Import Group into the future. Hard work pays off. The comments praised him. Nobody mentioned the daughter who'd kept that company alive through 2 recessions. 2 weeks later, I heard Derek's first big decision. He'd fired Miguel, our logistics coordinator of 20 years, replacing him with a college friend who charged triple and had 0 experience. Miguel called me, confused and hurt. I listened, took notes, and said nothing. But I started watching. Alone in my apartment, I finally let myself fall apart. Not into despair, but into clarity. I sat on my kitchen floor surrounded by old family photos and cried for the girl who'd believed hard work would eventually matter, who'd thought loyalty would be rewarded, who'd spent decades seeking approval from people who never intended to give it. Then I stopped crying. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and wrote down every skill I developed in those 15 years. Contract negotiation, supply chain management, international trade compliance, crisis management, financial forecasting. I'd been building a resume without realizing it. My phone buzzed. An email from Vincent Palmer, a former colleague from my corporate days. He'd started Palmer International, a consulting firm specializing in import logistics. Heard you might be available. Interested in a conversation. I stared at the message. Vincent and I had worked together a decade ago. He'd always respected my instincts. I typed one word. Yes. Vincent's office overlooked downtown Phoenix. Modern. Professional. The opposite of my father's cramped warehouse operation. I need someone who understands the Southwest import market, Vincent said. Your name came up from 3 different sources. My name? Rebecca Torres. Apparently, you solved problems at Torres Import Group that nobody else could handle. Why were you never on the executive roster? I chose honesty. Family politics. He nodded. Their loss. I need a senior operations consultant. You'd work directly with mid-size importers, helping them optimize their logistics. Many of them overlap with your father's supplier base. My heart stopped. That's not why I'm here. I know, but I won't pretend the industry overlap doesn't exist. If that's a problem, say so now. I thought about it. It's not a problem. He smiled. Good. Because you start Monday. I accepted, not for revenge, but for respect. For a title that matched my abilities. For a salary that reflected my worth. I didn't transform overnight. I worked. I learned Palmer systems. I rebuilt relationships with suppliers who remembered me as the woman who'd saved their contracts when Dad's company struggled. Being 42 became an advantage. I wasn't the young woman seeking approval anymore. I was experienced, reliable, exhausted with games. Clients trusted me. I delivered results without drama. 3 months in, I attended an industry mixer. I overheard 2 executives near the bar. Torres Import Group is struggling. Derek Torres makes decisions like he's playing a video game. His father built that company through relationships. The son just issues orders. I heard their best clients are quietly looking elsewhere. I sipped my wine and said nothing. But I listened very carefully. Derek's Instagram showed confidence. Closing major deals. Taking TIG to the next level. Behind the scenes, I heard different stories. He'd alienated the Hernandez distribution network by demanding overnight contract changes. He'd lost the Chin manufacturing account by missing 3 consecutive calls. Staff were leaving. Dad, officially retired but still hovering, made excuses. Derek's finding his leadership style. Mom called me once. Can you talk to your brother? He won't listen to your father anymore. I'm not part of TIG, remember? Rebecca, please. Family helps family. I felt the old pull, the old guilt. But I remembered that retirement dinner. That smirk. That silence. I have my own career now, I said. She hung up disappointed. A week later, Derek made his biggest mistake. He broke a 20-year contract with Westbrook Shipping, our primary freight partner, because a friend offered him a better deal that sounded too good to be true. It was. The new company folded within a month, leaving 3 container shipments stranded overseas. Vincent called me into his office. We have a situation. Westbrook Shipping is furious about Torres Import Group. They're threatening to pull out of Arizona entirely, which affects 4 of our clients. What do you need? Damage control. Can you negotiate with Westbrook without it being a conflict of interest? I thought carefully. I can try. I called Westbrook's director, an old contact named Patricia Martinez. She remembered me. Rebecca, your brother burned a bridge we'd built for 2 decades. I'm done. What if Torres Import Group wasn't involved? What if we helped transition your Arizona contracts to more reliable partners? She paused. You do that. Business is business. You need reliable partners.
We know who they are.
Over 2 weeks, I quietly restructured Westbrook's local network, protecting Palmer's clients and Westbrook's interests. Nobody knew Torres Import Group had been the problem, but somebody noticed my name on the final contract. Word spread fast in logistics circles. Rebecca Torres from Palmer International saved the Westbrook situation. I started getting meeting invitations I'd never received before. Industry conferences, supplier roundtables, strategy sessions with importers who'd never acknowledged me when I worked for free. My reputation grew separately from my family name. Rebecca Torres, the consultant who solved problems quietly and efficiently. Derek called once. I heard you're working in the industry. Small world.
Very small, I said.
Maybe we could collaborate sometime. Family business. I don't work for free anymore, Derek. He laughed uncomfortably and hung up. 4 months after the retirement dinner, Vincent told me about an upcoming Arizona Import Alliance meeting. All the major players attend. Your family will be there. My stomach twisted. Will that be a problem? Not for me. But you should know, Torres Import Group will be in that room. I thought about skipping it. Then I remembered who I'd become. I'll be there, I said. The meeting was at a downtown hotel. I arrived professionally dressed, carrying Palmer International folders. I saw my father first talking with suppliers by the coffee station. He looked older, tired. Derek stood near the registration table, laughing too loudly. My mother sat in the corner, scrolling her phone.
Derek spotted me.
He walked over, smiling that patronizing smile. Rebecca, look at you, playing businesswoman. Dad, look who's here. My father turned. His face went carefully neutral. Rebecca. Mr. Torres, I said formally.
Derek laughed.
Oh, come on. We're family. I'm here representing Palmer International, I said. Excuse me. I walked to my assigned seat. I felt their eyes on my back. Heard the whispered questions. That's his daughter? I thought she didn't work. The meeting began. Industry reports. Market trends. Then the main discussion, logistics crisis management and finding reliable operational partners. My phone buzzed during the break. My sister, texting. Dad says the business is struggling. Derek won't admit it, but they're desperate for the Martinez partnership. I stared at the message. Westbrook Martinez? The account I'd quietly transitioned away from them? Over the next week, I pieced together what was happening. Derek's aggressive restructuring had alienated most of Torres Import Group's stable partnerships. Dad's reputation had kept some suppliers loyal, but Derek's arrogance was burning through that goodwill. They needed Westbrook. But Westbrook had moved on. Vincent called me into his office. Patricia Martinez wants to expand her Arizona operations. She asked specifically for Palmer International to consult. Given your history, I need to know if this is comfortable. What's the scope? She wants us to identify reliable import partners across the Southwest. Basically, we'd be recommending or avoiding specific companies based on operational competence. I understood immediately. Palmer International would have leverage over which companies succeeded in Westbrook's network, including Torres Import Group. That's a huge responsibility, I said. That's why she wants you leading it. She trusts your judgment. I could refuse. Step aside. Avoid the conflict entirely. But I'd spent 15 years hiding from conflict, and it never protected me. I'll do it, I said, but professionally. No personal bias. Vincent nodded. I wouldn't expect anything less. I chose not to interfere with my father's company, but I didn't help them either. Derek's social media posts grew more desperate. Exciting changes at TIG. Big announcements coming soon. Behind the scenes, suppliers whispered about missed payments and ignored calls. Staff members reached out to me, asking if Palmer International was hiring. My father called. First time in 6 months. Rebecca, I need to talk to you. About what? Business. He's learning. But we need some strategic advice. I know you're consulting now. Could we hire Palmer International? The request hung in the air. He wanted my expertise. through formal channels, because I'd made it impossible to demand it for free anymore. You'd need to go through Vincent, I said. I don't make those decisions. But you'd recommend us? I thought about that retirement dinner. I'd recommend you hire someone qualified. That's all I can promise. He hung up frustrated. Derek made one final gamble. He signed a massive contract with an overseas manufacturer, promising delivery timelines that were physically impossible without Westbrook's freight network. He'd borrowed heavily to finance it, betting everything on execution. The collapse happened at the worst possible time. The manufacturer delivered early, but Derek had no freight partner to handle the shipment. Containers sat at the port, accumulating daily fees. Clients canceled orders. Investors panicked. Within 3 days, Torres Import Group was facing bankruptcy unless they found emergency logistics support. Dad called another industry friend. Word spread. TIG is desperate for freight capacity. Anyone available? Westbrook could have helped, but they were committed elsewhere now. Several other carriers were booked through Palmer International's strategic planning. The industry that had sustained my father for 30 years watched Derek's crisis with quiet judgment. An emergency board meeting was scheduled. Major investors. Key suppliers. Dad's lawyer. I received an unexpected email from Dad's lawyer. Ms. Torres, your expertise in Southwest import logistics has been noted. Would you attend tomorrow's emergency meeting as an independent consultant? Full professional fee. Your father has been informed. I read it 3 times. They were inviting me, not as family, as an expert. Dad didn't know I was the expert they'd chosen. I called Vincent. Did you recommend me for the Torres Import Group consultation? Patricia Martinez did. She told their lawyer you were the best crisis manager in Arizona. I confirmed your availability. Is that a problem? My hands shook.
No.
But my father doesn't know, does he? Not according to the lawyer. They listed you as Rebecca Torres, Senior Operations Consultant, Palmer International. I don't think he connected the dots. I had 24 hours to prepare. I spent them reviewing Torres Import Group's contracts, shipments, and liabilities. The numbers were worse than I'd imagined. Derek had made decisions based on ego, not analysis. Every problem was fixable, but it required humility and hard work. I wasn't sure Derek had either. That night, I stood in front of my closet, choosing what to wear. Professional, authoritative, unshakable. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that boardroom as myself. Not as the invisible daughter. As the consultant they needed to survive. And my father would have to listen. The boardroom was on the 3rd floor of Dad's warehouse building. I'd helped paint these walls 20 years ago. I arrived 5 minutes early, carrying my laptop and 3 folders of documentation. The lawyer met me outside. Ms. Torres, thank you for coming. I should mention. The door opened. My father walked out, talking on his phone. He glanced at me, did a double take, and froze. Rebecca. Mr. Torres, I said professionally. Derek appeared behind him. What's she doing here? The lawyer cleared his throat. This is Rebecca Torres from Palmer International, the consultant I mentioned. I watched understanding ripple across their faces. Shock. Confusion. Derek's mounting anger. This is a joke, Derek said. She's not a consultant. She's the highest recommended logistics expert in Arizona, the lawyer interrupted. According to 3 industry sources, including Westbrook Martinez. Shall we begin? I walked into the boardroom. 6 investors sat around the table. Dad's accountant. 2 key suppliers. They nodded at me professionally. Nobody questioned my presence except family. I opened my laptop and began. No emotion. Just data. Torres Import Group currently has $300,000 in port fees. You have 6 major clients threatening contract cancellation. Your freight capacity is 0. Your primary issue isn't cash flow, it's operational competence. Derek started to interrupt. An investor held up his hand. Let her finish. I pulled up a timeline. Over the past 8 months, TIG has lost 4 major partnerships through preventable conflicts. The Westbrook situation, the Hernandez network, the Chun account. Each one was solvable with basic relationship management. I displayed emails Derek had sent. Demanding, dismissive, unprofessional. The overseas manufacturing contract was signed without confirming freight capacity. This is a fundamental logistics error. No experienced consultant would have approved this timeline. The room was silent. I could feel Derek's rage building. My father's growing realization. Can this be fixed? An investor asked.
Yes.
But not by the current decision-maker. Derek exploded. This is insane. She has no credentials. She's just angry because she didn't inherit the company. Actually, the accountant said quietly, I've been reviewing historical data. Rebecca handled crisis management for this company for over a decade. The records show she resolved the 2015 supplier conflict and the 2018 shipping shortage. Both times without credit. My father's face had gone pale. An investor leaned forward. Mr. Torres, did your daughter work for this company or not? Dad hesitated. She helped. Informally. For how long? 15 years. Was she compensated? Silence. And you gave operational control to someone with less experience because... Derek jumped in. Because I'm his son. This is a family business. Family businesses fail when competence is ignored, the investor said. He turned to me. Ms. Torres, what would you recommend? This was the moment. I could destroy them. Recommend liquidation. Walk away. Let karma finish what Derek started. But that wasn't who I'd become. I'd recommend operational restructuring, I said. Bring in an experienced interim COO. Reestablish supplier relationships through professional outreach. Negotiate payment plans for port fees. Rebuild client trust through transparent communication. Would you take that role? An investor asked.
No.
Everyone looked surprised. Why not? The investor pressed. Because this company has a history of not valuing my work. I won't repeat that pattern. My father finally spoke. His voice was small, broken. Rebecca. I was wrong. The room went quiet. I looked at him, this man who'd raised me and dismissed me in the same breath. I know, I said. But knowing doesn't fix this. He tried to continue, but the board had heard enough. They called for a vote. Confidence in Derek's leadership or immediate restructuring. 7 hands went up for restructuring. 1 for Derek. Derek stared at the votes in disbelief.
Dad.
My father's hand was raised for restructuring. Tears ran down his face. The meeting ended with a clear mandate. Derek would move to a consulting role with no operational authority. An interim COO would be hired within 2 weeks. Dad would remain as advisor only. Derek stormed out. Mom followed him, shooting me a wounded look. The investors thanked me for my honesty. The lawyer paid my consulting fee on the spot. Double what I'd expected. As the room emptied, Dad approached me. We stood 3 feet apart in the boardroom where I'd once worked for free. I didn't see you, he said. Not really. Not until today. I know. That retirement dinner. What I said. I was wrong. You were. Can you forgive me? I thought about that question. Forgiveness felt too simple for 30 years of invisibility. I don't know yet, I said. But I'm not angry anymore. Will you help us?
Please.
The company needs you. And there it was. The old request. The old pattern. I looked at my father's desperate face. This was the moment he'd always imagined. Me coming back. Saving them. Being grateful for the chance. But I wasn't that person anymore. I'll help under one condition, I said. Professional terms. Standard consulting contract. Paid in full. No family obligations. No guilt. No emotional leverage. He nodded quickly.
Yes.
Anything. And Derek has to agree to follow recommendations. If he interferes, I walk. Dad hesitated.
He's proud.
This is hard for him. Then he'll fail again. Your choice.
Vincent had taught me this.
Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're clarity. Dad finally nodded. I'll talk to him. I left that building feeling lighter than I had in years. I'd offer help, but on my terms. For the first time, I wasn't begging for approval. I was setting conditions. Derek called that night. His voice was tight with barely controlled anger. I need your help. Tell me what you need. Dad says I have to follow your recommendations. That's not a request, Derek. That's a boundary. This is humiliating. Then don't accept it. Long silence. I'll do it. For Dad. Over the next month, I restructured Torres' import group with surgical precision. I wasn't cruel. I was competent. I negotiated payment plans with port authorities. I rebuilt relationships with Hernandez and Chen, apologizing for Derek's behavior. I brought in Maria Santos, an experienced COO who'd worked in imports for 20 years. Derek attended meetings, but rarely spoke. He followed recommendations because he had no choice. Staff morale improved. Clients cautiously returned. The company stabilized. I worked professionally, billing for every hour, maintaining distance. No family dinners. No casual phone calls. Just business. My father tried several times to bridge the gap. Can we have coffee? Just a talk. I'm not ready yet. When will you be ready? I don't know. Maybe never. He looked devastated, but I held firm. Forgiveness wasn't owed. It was earned. Derek struggled the most. His identity had been wrapped up in being the golden son, the heir, the chosen one. Without that title, he didn't know who he was. One afternoon, he showed up at Palmer International. Vincent led him into my office. Derek sat across from me, looking smaller than I remembered. I don't know how to do this, he said. Be second. Take orders. Admit I was wrong. I did it for 30 years, I said. How? I didn't have a choice. You do. He looked at his hands. I'm sorry. For the retirement dinner. For everything. I studied him. The apology felt real, but incomplete. Sorry for hurting me? Or sorry for losing power? Derek, do you actually understand what you did wrong? I made bad business decisions. No. You treated people like they didn't matter. Including me. The business decisions were symptoms of that problem. He was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to fix that. Then learn. Or don't. But I won't fix it for you. He left without another word. 2 weeks later, Dad sent a formal letter through his lawyer. Torres Import Group wanted to offer me a permanent board position. Full voting rights. Competitive salary. Official recognition. The offer I'd wanted my whole life. Finally mine. I read it 3 times, then called Vincent. What do you think? I asked. What do you want? I thought about it carefully. I want to keep building my own reputation. At Palmer. On my terms. He smiled. Then that's your answer. I met Dad at a coffee shop. Neutral territory. I slid the unsigned contract across the table. I can't accept this, I said. His face fell. Why not? Because you're offering it out of desperation, not respect. 10 months ago, you humiliated me in front of 200 people. Now you're offering me what I always deserved because you need me. That's not recognition. That's strategy. Rebecca, please. I'm not saying never. I'm saying not now. Not like this. What do you want from me? I thought about that question. I want you to understand why I left. Really understand. Not because the company needs me, but because I deserved better than how you treated me. He started crying. My father, who'd never shown emotion, broke down in a public coffee shop. I was so focused on legacy, he said. On building something to pass down. I thought Derek needed preparation. I thought you were fine on your own. I didn't see you struggling. I didn't see you sacrificing. I just assumed you were okay. I wasn't okay. I spent 30 years trying to prove I mattered to you. You always mattered. Then why didn't you show it? He had no answer. 6 months after that retirement dinner, my life looked completely different. I'd been promoted to Director of Operations at Palmer International. I'd earned industry recognition for the Westbrook project. I'd spoken at 3 conferences about crisis management and logistics innovation. Torres Import Group stabilized under Maria's leadership. Derek moved to a regional sales position, which actually suited him better. Dad retired fully this time, quietly. My mother reached out once through email.
Short.
Awkward. I'm sorry I never stood up for you. I wrote back. I'm sorry I waited so long to stand up for myself. We hadn't reconciled. Maybe we never would. But I'd stopped waiting for their approval to feel whole. The daughter who'd sat silently through that humiliating speech was gone. I'd become someone who knew her worth and wouldn't accept less. I didn't win by destroying them. I won by walking away when they expected me to beg, by building a career they couldn't ignore, by offering help on my terms instead of theirs. I won by becoming undeniable. And the best part? I did it at 42. Not 25. Not 30. At the age when everyone said I should have given up. Some victories take decades. But they're sweeter for the wait.